Mike, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started then. This is the Tiger Stock Discord interview with Michael O'Shea. He's the CEO of XCELERATE Incorporated, and that's ticker symbol XCRT, and that's an OTCQB company. All right, so before we get started, Michael, I want to just introduce you and to the people here in the room. Go ahead and just say hello.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, Ryan, and thanks for arranging this interview. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's great to have you. So before we get into our discussion, I'm going to go ahead and read a safe harbor statement. Our discussion may include predictions, estimates, and other information that might be considered forward-looking. While these forward-looking statements represent the company's current judgment on what the future holds, they are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially. You are cautioned not to place undue reliance on these forward-looking statements, which reflect opinions only as the date of this presentation. Please keep in mind that the company is not obligating themselves to revise or publicly release the results of any revision of these forward-looking statements in light of new information or future events. Throughout today's discussion, we will attempt to present important factors relating to the company's business that may affect any predictions. All right, that's a mouthful, but here we go. So, Michael, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, that'd be great.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. I very briefly have 30 plus years experience as an investigator and as a forensic accountant, and have served as court-appointed receivers, have worked on major bankruptcies and things of that nature, a lot of due diligence, public company work. And about 3 years ago now, I met a Dr. Dilan Ellegala through my work on a litigation that he was peripherally involved with. And we became kind of friendly, and he was explaining some of the visions he had. He's a world-famous neurologist, been books written about him. And he does a lot of work in Africa. And he told me about his plans for what he wanted to do. And that led to a discussion one day where I told him I knew of a shell that had been really kind of non-trading and whatnot. And perhaps that his plans could be best served by getting involved with a little public company. And we sort of grew from there over 2.5 years now.
Oh, really cool. So you really forged a relationship through one of your forensic auditing cases. Is that correct then?
Yeah, that's correct. It was a large public company that had gone under a number of years ago, and I was actually working with a major law firm on a $400 million judgment collection, and Dilan was going to be recipient of some of those proceeds, and that's how this got going. He's a real impressive guy, and I thought I'd do whatever I could to try and help promote the project.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. So you guys had some big news yesterday. Your tier was changed from OTC Pink to OTCQB. So first off, congratulations on getting that done. And what does that mean for your company in the future and the growth of it?
Well, number one, thanks. And number two, I hope, and I may not have mentioned, this is really my first foray into the public market. So I've been learning as I go for the last couple of years. But in general, we just feel that having moved to the QB requires us to be totally transparent, reporting to the SEC. We've been audited for 3 years now, and I think that transparency and that exposure will also give us a lot of entrees into investors that we may not have had before being on the pink sheets.
Absolutely. Well, and I think the fact of your background being in the forensic space, forensic accounting space, I mean, that's huge. So, I'm just going to ask it now. So you've uplisted OTCQB. Is there any plans in the future to maybe uplist further than that? Maybe say NASDAQ or a larger big board?
Yeah, we've stated all along in press releases and on our website and whatnot that our ultimate goal was to uplist to a national market, be it NASDAQ or NYSE. And everybody that I've been able to talk to advises that this QB listing is kind of a necessary stop along the way.
Right.
And we've got our first experience with filing with the SEC and everything that's involved in that. But ultimately, yes, hopefully sooner rather than later, we've got to increase revenues and some other items before we can qualify, but that is the goal.
Sure. Yeah, great. Okay, so let's talk about your company's accomplishments in the last few years. You've stated that it's you've only been around for a couple of years. So what have we done in those last couple of years?
Well, a good part of it at first was involved with getting the shell organized and going through a lot of FINRA issues with change of control and getting audits and so on and so forth. But along the way, we've done a few things. We have brought on a couple of board members and also a large number of advisory board members. Dilan Ellegala being one of them, but also Dr. Barry Marshall, who won a Nobel Prize in medicine, and a lot of other folks who have very specific expertise that relates to our goals, which is basically taking certain engineering advancements or underlying patents and acquiring them and moving them into the healthcare and medical field. And to that end, we acquired a license for a material that we're going to use in a surgical drill. We filed our own first of anticipated to be 5 patents this year on that drill. And in addition, we've acquired 5 US and 5 European patents from a company called HS Pharmaceutical, who we've been working with. And the primary goal at the moment is we've gotten a license for a program that'll be used with our Afiasasa Africa project, which is basically a artificial intelligence based system that brings citizens into contact with physicians, hospitals, pharmacies, et cetera. So we've compiled a lot of components that fit into our business plan, and now we're starting to sort of merge them together and try and move them forward.
Right. Okay, so what do you think the biggest strength of your company is right now?
Probably number one is the group of folks that are advising us that we've assembled. As I mentioned, I'm pretty familiar with the financial world, but that's about it. And I've learned a lot about the public company world, but we've just got some excellent people that are, putting their time in. We have no salaries, we have no overheads, no office space, no debt. So everybody is just working on trying to bring products in their area. As an example, some of the patents we acquired from HS Pharmaceutical have to do with advances in medical technology, wound healing, et cetera. And we've got 2 folks on our advisory board that are working right now with several universities and pharmaceutical companies to try and partner us up to further the research on these products.
Yeah, no, I've looked at your website. I've seen the bio page. It's very informative as far as who is on your advisory board and also the actual the board directors. It's a good look if someone's interested in your company that they should take a look at that. Now, as far as the advisory board goes with Dr. Ellegala and Dr. Marshall, can you talk about them a little bit more in depth about what their history is? I know you talked about Mr. Ellegala as far as his forays into the African medical stuff that he's doing. What about Dr. Marshall? And then you recently added another person, Cathy Scangarella. If you can talk about her as well.
Yeah. As I mentioned, Dilan, tremendous medical training history, Harvard, and a number of other institutions. He's on the board of the Barron Neurological Institute out in Arizona. And as an outshoot of that, he's currently living in Tanzania, setting up a neurological center of excellence with a $20 million grant. And in conjunction with that, he's working with us, of course, to promote our platform over there. And Barry, as I mentioned, had won a Nobel Prize, basically discovery of things that led to the elimination of stomach cancer, among other things. And he's now running a huge research center in Western Australia, and has been really invaluable in advising on certain things, and probably will be much more involved now that we've acquired these patents, some of which from HS were originally developed by Cambridge University, and they still have an involvement. Cathy has spent her entire career in either government or government-related work in New Jersey, which is sort of a cradle of the pharmaceutical industry. And she currently is involved with a company called Choose New Jersey, which promotes companies to develop their businesses, and she's the head of their pharmaceutical unit or arm, if you will. And she is currently working to try and locate one or two research partners for us to take the patents that we've acquired and kind of move them to the next level.
Right.
And by that, I mean, too, I should say, we're not looking to actually start manufacturing pharmaceuticals or manufacturing surgical instruments. We're looking to take a new look at them, new types of engineering or new types of research, and then developing them with a partner, and then ultimately passing them off to that partner.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. And as far as the patent, we had talked about it briefly. Is the patent itself, is that for the actual medical technology, or is that for the alloy material that's being used in that technology? If you understand the question.
Well, there are two parts. One of our board members, Steve Gravely, is a co-inventor along with Dr. Anja Glisovic in Germany on the material and the use thereof. They have licensed it to. It was oddly enough actually developed for as a heat wicking material to be used in gun barrels. If you get involved with, rapid fire rifles or sniper rifle type of thing, they heat up and they tend to warp. And so this material was used for that, but they've licensed it to XCELERATE for use in medical technology. So to that end, Dr. Ellegala is working with Dr. Glisovic and Steve on this surgical instrument, which ultimately will be made from that material and used for mainly the initial tool for spinal surgery, which is Dr. Ellegala's specialty. Right. And it will incorporate both an optical component and a laser component that will enable the surgeon to go in through a small incision and on a screen see exactly where he's operating and what material he's removing. Anja is now working with two prototypes. She's procured a camera that she sent me an image of that fits inside the zero of the one dime inscription on the bottom of a 10-cent piece.
Wow.
Minuscule. And so she's working on merging that into the tip of the tool. So again, all of these people are doing it strictly on the basis of they all have shares in the company, and that's it. And they're, as everybody else has been, self-funding. And we think that'll lead to any money we raise goes into these projects. And so we think it's a good combination.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a passion project, really, for a lot of these people. I mean, this is what they do. They've chosen it for a living, and they just want to help, the betterment of society, and that's great.
Yeah, and hopefully someday their efforts will be rewarded.
Yeah, definitely.
That's always there.
Yeah. Well, but what I'm saying is, I think you can be driven by a number of things, but if your passion is to help people, and if you can ultimately help yourself by doing so, then great. But the passion is there, and that drives people. So that drives your work product, and I think that's really important. So it's not just we want to make some money, and so this is why we're doing it. We're doing it because we want to help society, and that's good.
Exactly. I mean, the project in Africa with Dilan in its simplest form allows anyone with a digital device, a phone, a tablet, a laptop, ultimately to contact with, on a face-to-face basis, a physician, a pharmacy, a hospital,
Right.
do initial triage and give them access. And in places like Tanzania, I was shocked to find out that they actually have more digital devices per capita than we do in the US,
Crazy.
but no real access to that medical attention. So Dilan's theory all along was, let's develop this they can get on. Once you're a repeat patient, it'll use facial recognition, bring up your records. And we are to the point where we have 4 employees there. We've identified 4 beta sites, and we're hoping to complete the funding for those. And our revenues will actually come from negotiating contracts per capita with the government to give the citizens basic access to medical care, and the government is willing to pay for that. So they're waiting to see how our beta sites go.
Okay, very cool. And that's the AFIA project, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, AFIA SASA.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Well, that's good to know that the government's going to be helping out and helping their people. So very good. As far as additional patents go, are you guys going to be trying to apply for additional patents or acquiring more patents in the future?
Yeah, we are. Again, there'll probably be additional changes to these instruments that I'm talking about, and further modifications to them. As Dilan pointed out when we first started talking about it, there've been basically no real changes in this basic surgical drill in 30 to 40 years.
Sure.
And what we're hoping to do is make it such that it could be retrofitted to at least existing manufacturers. As I said, we don't intend to go out and start manufacturing and competing, but we intend to lock down patents and then license our technology to companies who are already in this field.
So that'd be much like adding that camera to the tip, like you were talking about before.
Correct. Yeah.
Things like that.
That's okay. In its simplest form. Absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. And we talked.
And to that end, I think we have 4 more planned before the end of the year.
Okay, great. Well, that's good to look forward to. As far as the recent acquiring of HS Pharmaceuticals, what does it really mean for the future of your company?
Well, again, we've tried HS, developed these, as I mentioned, in conjunction with one of them, at least in conjunction with Cambridge University. They did that by funding a PhD candidate who had a number of papers published. And quite frankly, HS raised some $15 million to develop these products.
Wow.
And as a private company, and have kind of hit a stone wall. They've taken a slightly different direction into the veterinary medicine area and whatnot, and doing their revenue. So we arranged to buy these patents, take the benefit of that 10, 15 million in development work, and the folks who develop them and move them on to the next stage. But basically in the areas of T-cell activation, wound healing, a lot of studies have been done on it. They have amazing promise. And our hope is, particularly with the help of Cathy, to get into 1 or 2 mid-sized firms and or universities and take the next step in further developing them and refining them, getting them closer to being a product. And then in all likelihood, we'll probably look to, like everything else, sell or license that technology. So ultimately, we're kind of almost like an incubator for the healthcare area that will then have patents, have technology, and then just go license those rather than trying to manufacture, so we can stay small and tidy and, again, minimal overhead and start generating revenues from those clients.
Right. Now, and I'm sorry to kind of jump back here, but the patent we spoke about earlier, as far as the drill with the alloy technology, you already have an existing license out on that product. Is that correct?
We have for the material.
The material, okay.
To build it, yeah. And once these 2 prototypes are done, or 3, quite frankly, they'll be used in a cadaver lab. As a matter of fact, Dr. Ellegala will probably come back in September to test them. And if we feel we're at a good point, then we'll start talking to people about licensing the technology.
Okay, very good. Okay, so let's jump into some of the financial part of this stuff. So a lot of the investors want to know about the Reg A funding. And can you explain about the Reg A funding for your company?
Yes, people may or may not be familiar. I wasn't overly, but Reg A is an exemption to an offering that allows a company to go out and raise funds by selling free trading stock. And we applied after getting audits done and whatnot, and I believe January of this year, and received an approval from the SEC within, I think, 3 days. We were shocked.
Wow.
So you have to set a price on that, and the price was set at 5 cents. So we went out and we raised some money, all of which went to the project in Africa, which now has gotten us to the point where we're ready to install the beta sites. And then, quite frankly, one of the issues we've had is the stock price has been below that strike price, and so it's kind of put the brakes on our fundraising. But we had set the Reg A at $1 million cap, and we've raised 200,000.
Okay.
And we are prepared to turn that off once we raise enough that we feel, will carry us through the end of this year and revenue generation. So it is still open, but of course we haven't really done anything to raise it. And that's pretty much it with it. That's our only fundraising. And as I say, it's all going in. Well, some of the monies went into audit fees, but other than that, there's no salaries, no office rents, no nothing. The rest of it all went into Afiasasa.
Yeah. Okay.
And patent attorneys and things of that nature.
Gotcha.
They're not inexpensive, but we keep moving forward with them. And then several of us are providing self-funding, and that's the only debt you'll see is debt due to related parties of probably 200,000, I guess. So that's pretty much the financial situation in terms of what we're planning. And that money, should we raise it tomorrow, for example, we'll close out the Reg A, and that'll carry us into the second quarter, at least, of next year, which hopefully will be revenue generating before that. And that may be the end of our funding requirements.
Right. Okay. And so that leads into the next question is how the company plans to raise capital in order to fund, future growth. And it sounds like as if through AFIA, you're going to have the government of Tanzania at this point generating revenue for you, as well as licensing your technology. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's sort of the model with everything. In other words, we'll be funding some patents, but then we're not going to have inventory issues, manufacturing inventories, management overhead on any of these. Once, for example, Afiasasa is up and running, it'll have very minimal maintenance requirements. It's just maintaining, databases and servers and what have you with a reasonably small staff. And the same with some of the patent material. Once we sign a license agreement with someone, it'll provide a revenue stream with really no overhead connected to it.
Right. Okay, cool. What's the goal for the company in just a general sense?
Well, in a general sense, is to sort of just keep the mill going, or the incubator going, if you will. We're always looking at new patents, new potential add-ons to existing materials or pharmaceutical. We actually, based on some of our owned patents now from HS, we've been working with HS and exploring the possibility of perhaps using that technology in an over-the-counter type of situation where we could actually generate revenue much quicker than, the nanoparticle long-term research type project.
Right. Okay. And go ahead.
I was going to say, so overall, that's just sort of the stated goal of the company from day one, is to identify these things, merge them into healthcare, medicine, and then partner or license them out.
Yeah. Understood. So where do you see the company in about 2 to 5 years?
Good question. If the plan follows, hopefully it'll be, a sort of well-run operation that owns rights and interests in a number of licenses and patents, and continues to develop those or support further research, as HS did with PhD candidates, and just kind of keep our market focus and try and grow that, and keep overheads to a minimum, and revenues and profits at a decent level.
Yeah, makes sense. And so I know this is the last question that I have. We probably covered all sorts of aspects of this question already, but if we can just kind of narrow it down into a little fine dot, what are the catalysts do you see that will be affecting the stock going forward?
Well, I think that to date, it's been kind of a hit and miss with what we're doing to get the company prepared, people we're bringing on. But I think the real catalyst for the value in the stock is going to be, now that we've got all of this great team together and we've got some of our technologies, it's going to be on performance. And the better the performance, the more we're going to be able to innovate and incubate new projects and move it forward. So it's getting, I think once we raise the balance of this initial funding, it's going to be up to the company to run under its own steam and reputation.
Right. Okay. So those are all the questions I have. Michael, is there anything else you want to talk about that we may have missed?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything, and I'm trying to think. There's really not too awful much that we did miss. I think we've accomplished an awful lot in the last 2.5 years, and I think it'll pave the way for some good future growth going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a great company, and I could really appreciate the fact that you guys are trying to do good things around the world, and it's not just about not just about profit. So although that's nice, it's also nice to be there for the right reasons. So I appreciate that.
Exactly. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on with us.
All right, very good. And if anything further comes up, just let me know. We'll be happy to clarify. And thanks
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Have a great day. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ryan. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.